Pakistan is once again under the grip of rampant terrorism, and this time it's the restive Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province bearing the brunt. A recent report by the Counter-Terrorism Department has laid bare the deteriorating law and order situation in the region, with 284 terror attacks recorded in just the first half of 2025. The data is yet another indictment of Pakistan's long-standing policy of nurturing extremist groups, an approach that has now come back to haunt its own people. Here's a detailed report. In 2025 alone, 284 terrorist incidents have rocked Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Pakistan's northwestern province that borders Afghanistan. According to the Counter-Terrorism Department, North Waziristan district recorded the highest number of attacks at 53, followed by Bannu, Dera Ismail Khan, Peshawar and Kurram. This follows a worrying trend. 732 attacks were reported in 2024 and 651 in 2023, marking the worst escalation of violence since 2009 and 2010.
When the Afghan regime fell in 2020, Pakistan believed that it had got the necessary strategic depth it had always desired. What it did not realize, even after so many years, that it had created another Frankenstein. And that Frankenstein is coming back to haunt him, because if you look at the goals of that Frankenstein, TTP, it is to establish an Islamic state, a very fundamentalist Islamic state. Whereas the Pakistani army is to have a country which is controlled by the army. When there is such a clash, obviously there will be conflict, and the conflict will take the form of terror, because this is what the Pakistani army has taught these particular groups.
The law and order situation in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa began collapsing in mid-2021, coinciding with the return of the Afghan Taliban to power. As Kabul fell, so did any semblance of security along Pakistan's tribal belt. Groups like the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, operating from Waziristan and long supported by Islamabad's military and intelligence apparatus, found new life and lethality. Ironically, former Prime Minister Imran Khan, instead of condemning the Taliban resurgence, welcomed it. He referred to the Taliban takeover as breaking the shackles of slavery and declared the regime to be pro-Pakistan. Those statements now ring hollow as the same Taliban proxies turn against the very state that once nurtured them.
When Kabul fell in 2020 and the legitimate Afghan government was toppled and the Taliban came in, very few days later you had ISI generals going, having a cup of tea. That image went particularly viral. They were boasting that this was all they're doing. But remember, the goals of the Taliban is to have an Islamic emirate in Afghanistan. It is not to give Pakistan strategic depth. And this is something Pakistan completely failed. Now, what had it done? In pushing the Afghan Taliban, it had to give some leeway to local Taliban also. And the local Taliban has become extremely strong. That local Taliban has bases both in KPK as well as in Afghanistan. And therefore, it does whatever it needs to do.
The price of these miscalculations has been devastating. The 2023 Peshawar mosque bombing at the police headquarters left over 86 policemen dead and more than 200 injured. It was one of the deadliest attacks on the force. But it wasn't the first, nor the last. The TTP has orchestrated a string of brutal attacks over the years. The 2014 Peshawar school massacre, the 2016 Lahore suicide bombing, the 2016 Quetta hospital attacks, the 2014 Karachi airport assault, and the 2010 Lucky Marwat bombing. Each of these tragedies highlights not just the brutality of terror groups, but also the utter failure of Pakistan's security establishment. Despite lofty claims and the much-hyped National Action Plan launched after the Peshawar school massacre, Pakistan has failed to eliminate terrorism. Instead, the state has turned its guns on civilians in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Balochistan and other tribal regions. Local accounts accuse the military of burning homes, kidnapping youth and labeling innocent civilians as anti-nationals, all in the name of counter-terrorism.
So what they do is to arrest people who are trying to use constitutional means, narrowly defined by the Pakistan constitution itself, to target them, their families. They are disappeared. So what they are very foolishly doing is to kill the civil society intermediaries between the local population and the Pakistani state. Who is left behind? Only the militants is left behind. So you are looking for a very bloody military solution which the Pakistani state thinks it is capable of winning because they have won this battle before.
Pakistan's soil continues to host a lethal cocktail of terror outfits that pose a threat not only to its own citizens but to the entire region. Islamabad claims to be a global partner in counter-terrorism, but the ground realities suggest otherwise. Terrorism and Pakistan have become synonymous, and unfortunate results of decades of strategic miscalculations and double games.